You ever wonder what it would feel like to finally be able to understand money? I'm not talking about reading a book about it or watching videos on YouTube about it. I'm talking about being able to understand it at the level that millionaires and billionaires do. People that seem like they have cracked the code and they have everything figured out. I thought that I had understood money at one point in my life. And it was when I had real money. Like I'm talking about, I was making really, really good money. I was making 50, 60, $70,000 a month at the age of 22, 23 years old. So at that point in my life, I felt like I had it all figured out. Like life was just going to be easy from here on out. It was going to be peaches and cream. And then one of the hardest things ever happened to me. I lost it all. I had made over a $500,000 before the age of 24. And before the age of 25, I had lost every single dime. But the hardest part about me losing the money wasn't the fact that I had lost it. It was realizing that I didn't understand how I had built it in the first place. So when everything was gone, I had nothing to fall back on. I didn't have a system. I didn't have any type of framework. I didn't have anything that I can be able to use in order for me to be able to get back to the threshold that I once was. The only thing that I had was a feeling that I had to live with every single day of realizing that I had it and now I don't have it. And one of the most dangerous places to be in life is realizing that your success was accidental. So your failure is going to be inevitable. Today, what I'm going to be sharing with you guys is something I have never talked about on this channel publicly. I'm going to share with you guys my real story. And it's the part that I normally skip. But I'm done being quiet or, not necessarily speaking about my full story because I feel like this is going to be the missing piece that a lot of you are missing right now. When you're in that position where you feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing seems to be going your way for you to be able to get the results that you actually desire. And I want you to stay with me until the end of this video because I'm going to share with you the shift that I had to make in my mind and what I learned from that shift after I had hit rock bottom. So before I get into what losing everything actually taught me, I got to give you guys context of what happened before the fall. So obviously, the only way for you to be able to make that type of money early on in your career is by being in sales and marketing. So I was doing very well at the particular time. I had my own business. It was a education business, pretty much where I gave people value and in exchange for their value was a monthly subscription. And that's how I was able to grow to $50,000, $60,000 a month. I had around about 400 to 500 people paying at least $150 per month. And this is what equaled me being able to get to that type of threshold early on in my career. But, although I was doing well, and some would say better than most people at that specific age, from the outside looking in, it seemed like I had it all figured out. But the truth was, I had never stopped to ask myself how I was actually doing it. Because at the time, I was just riding energy. I was riding momentum. And it was a combination of my natural ability and just good timing. But I confused that with skill, not understanding that that was going to be my first mistake. So before the fall, I'm just a naive individual. I'm a person that, and all of this stuff is happening fast. Nobody ever taught me about money. The only thing that I had learned about money was the things that I had went out here and wanted to learn for myself. I got most of my information about money from books because I heard a person say at a networking event, it was a guy that said, if you want to keep a black man from being rich, you'll put it inside of a book because they'll never open up the book and read it. So that was the moment that I changed my life. And he didn't know that I had heard that, but me hearing that is what changed my perception on everything. And it made me start to want to read books. So I wanted to go and gather knowledge. And it was no longer the schooling education that changed my life. It was the education that I went out here and taught myself that actually changed my life. At the time, I was a college student. I did 3.5 years of schooling. And in my senior year, my final semester, I only had 6 credits left. I literally made a decision to go all in on my dream. to build what it is I felt was on the inside. And a lot of people at that time, that was one of the hardest decisions that I had to make, not because it was for me, but because of how other people were perceiving me. My friends, my family, nobody at the time understood, why would you want to leave school if you came this far? Why not just stay and finish? But there's something that lives on the inside of you. And when you know the right timing is right, you don't question God. You just take the leap of faith and you trust that when I jump out of this plane, God is going to give me my parachute to make sure that I get to the ground. Fast forwarding, this was actually January of 2020 when this all happened. So this was right before COVID. This timing was perfect. And at the time, I didn't understand it, but like, I just had a feeling in my heart. Like, I was in classes, but I was losing money because I couldn't show up for the people that were really able to pay me. Like, they were willing to pay me to be able to provide them a service, to coach them, to consult them, to teach them, whatever it is that you want to call it. They were paying me, and I was taking time away from me making money because I had to go and sit in class and study for material. And at that point in my life, like, I had to sit back and I had to evaluate, and I had to ask myself, what is it that I truly wanted out of life? I knew that I was in an environment in the college university that didn't necessarily fit me, because the thing that even started me on my entrepreneurship journey in the first place was I was a broke college student. Sophomore year, I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm going to go and graduate in 2 years and continue to go through this cycle of pursuing something that is not necessarily who I am. Obviously, at the time of being 19, 20 years old, I didn't even understand who I was. But I knew deep down inside that who I was more than what I was around. So in that moment, fast forward back to, 2020, when I'm sitting here and it's just like, man, I graduate in May. I would have graduated on time. Like, all of these things added up. But on the other end, it was like, you have to make a decision. And it got to the point where I legit, like, I was breaking out in hives. Like, if I scratched my skin like this, I was breaking out in hives. And I didn't understand it at the time, but it was because I was so stressed. I was doing something that I didn't necessarily want to do because I felt like it was the thing that I was told to do. But me understanding that what's living on the inside of me is never going to live unless I am able to create it. So at the time, was it an ill-advised decision? Some could say yes, some could say no. It was the best decision that I had ever made. I was in New York at the time, and literally this was my first time ever being in New York. It was the big city of dreams. Being at the end, like walking down the streets of New York, it gave me life. It inspired me. It made me want to go out here and pursue and do something different, something that I had never seen done before. So in that moment, I made the decision that I'm not going back to school. The first call that I made it to my mom and my dad because I felt like I owed them at least the simple fact that, hey, y'all think that I'm in school, but I'm done with this. Surprisingly, it hurt them. I'm sure my mom cried real tears. My dad was frustrated, but they understood that the kid that they gave birth to was not going to make a decision if he didn't necessarily know what was going to come after it. So me walking away from school at the time, fast forward literally 2 months later, I make my first $100,000 in a business. And then COVID hit. COVID literally hit. I think it was the last month or the last week of March or the first week of March. The world shut down. I'm thinking everything is a joke, but this was really the blessing for me. Like, this was one of the biggest blessings because the business that I had, it was an online business. So forcing everybody to go inside of the house, people needed a way to be able to make money. And that's why I had said, like, at the time I confused it with skill, but it was really just momentum backed by my natural ability and me having good timing that really took me to the place of, okay, now this is my time for me to be able to shine. So in the year of 2020, going into 2021, up to 2022, like, I was making really, 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 really good money. But again, I had confused the way that I had made that money with skill. But reality was it was an accident the way that I got rich because it was my first time ever making that type of money. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just showing up and I was doing the things that I felt like was right, but I didn't know the right things to do at the right times to do them. And I didn't have the right people around me at the same exact time. So that was my biggest mistake, not understanding what I was doing. So a lot of people are probably wondering, okay, so how did you get all of that money and then just lose that money? Because if you remember earlier in the story, I had never been taught anything about money. So I didn't understand things. And when things slowed down, I didn't necessarily have a system to fall back on. Fast forward to 2023, I'm no longer doing this business at the time, but I made the decision that I wanted to get out of my environment. I needed to go to where the money makers were. And it was nothing against my hometown, but I knew that I could not become the person that I wanted to be if I stayed in the same village that raised me. If I stayed in the same village that saw me come into the person that I was. And that is something that I advise everybody to do. If you're still young and you have the ability to get out of your hometown, make that decision and take that leap of faith because it's going to change your life forever. When I made the decision that I was going to leave my hometown, I went to one of the most expensive cities probably in the world. I wanted to go and I wanted to live in Miami, Florida. And I couldn't just go to live in Miami, Florida and not do it big. So what did I do? I went and I got a high-rise condo. The rent was $6,100 a month. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that because you have to realize where the fall actually came from. Now, I had collected this $6,000 a month bill and I had never had any real money before. But remember, I'm no longer doing the business that actually got me to the point that I was at. So what happened when everything stopped with that business? I said, well, look, I got to start over. I got to get this back. Like I have the money right now. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go out here and I'm going to try to build 10 different businesses. Why would I want to build 10 different businesses? Because what was told to me growing up, the insight that I had, remember, I had no guidance before. What was told to me was, if you want to be a millionaire, you need to have 7 streams of income. So on sheet, I had touched $1 million, but I didn't have $1 million. So I didn't feel like I was a millionaire yet. So I said, okay, in order for me to be able to cross the threshold of becoming a full-time millionaire, I need to go and I need to invest in 7 different businesses. I need to have all of these different streams of income. So what did I do? I went and I invested probably $15,000 to $20,000 into multiple different things at the time. And all this did was I over leveraged myself and it reset me back to zero because I had an overhead of $6,100 a month, not realizing that that was only the beginning. Like in order to be able to live in Miami, that's not including all of the other bills that comes. That's not including eating. That's not including going out. It's not including being in the environment. It costs 3 times as much money to live in Miami, Florida than it did in my hometown for where it is that I came from. But I had to have it. I had to have the lifestyle. When that opportunity crossed my threshold, all I could think about was this was my dream. And if I never go out here and live this dream, then I'll never be able to do it. So in doing so, while I'm out there in Miami, the high overhead per month, I'm going and I investing $15,000, $20,000 into all of these different businesses. I invested in a hair business. I invested in 3 to 4 different forms of e-com businesses trying to resell, plastic toys to people, trying to build a marketing agency where I would go out here and run ads for other businesses and other dentists and lawyers was who it is I was focused on at the time. But I was trying to build a marketing agency where I would go out here and I would attract those type of clients and then I would run ads for them. Then I had invested over $20,000 into a crypto scheme that ended up just disappearing. Like my money was just gone the next day. And the list can go on and on and on. But at the time, I'm not realizing that this is probably the wrong move to be making because nobody had guided me. I didn't have any type of systems. I had no framework. All I had was the desire. I had the hustle. And I had the belief that eventually I'm going to have all of this stuff figured out. But because I didn't have that framework, all I had was an expensive chaos that at the time I didn't necessarily understand. And I didn't necessarily know when to pull the plug. So all I did was I spent months trying to rebuild what it is I had when I was at the $50,000, $60,000 a month. Now those $50,000 a month are turned into negative months because I have over leveraged. I went out here and I've gotten, over $200,000 in business credit because I had the ability to do so. But now I'm paying for bills with credit and not having the ability to ever pay the credit off. So that's how I went from having all of that money to having to start back at zero. And that lesson taught me, that point in my life taught me one of the hardest lessons that I had ever had to learn. Your effort alone is not going to equal income. Your ability to be able to understand leverage is. And nobody had ever taught me the difference. A lot of people don't even know what leverage actually is. Most people are scared of leverage, so much of the fact that they will continue to go through the same cycle in life without ever being able to multiply what they have because they don't understand leverage. My definition of leverage is being able to either use other people's money or other people's resources to be able to build something for yourself. There's a correct way in doing it. Remember, I had no frameworks. I had no systems. All I had was my natural ability and the simple fact that I had the belief that I live a life without any type of limits. And I had thought that, hey, I got to Miami, so I got to know what I'm doing. I got to know that I have it figured out. But that's when God humbled me the most. And he showed me that the only reason why I had it is because he wanted me to have it. And that started one of the hardest cycles that I ever had to go through, because when I lost it all and I had to come back to my parents' house and move in with them after I had said that I would never do that again, the thing that hurt the most wasn't the fact that I lost my money. It was the shot at my ego that I had to take. Being able to, or being put in an environment that I had no longer, or I never expected to be in the environment that I was put back in. So what did I do? I stressed myself out. I got back to the simple point of, like, I stressed myself out so much to the point that I had to isolate myself. And it wasn't by choice, but it was because that was the only way that I could be able to get out of my own head. I had to isolate myself. And in those quiet and lonely times, I had to listen to what God wanted from me. I couldn't sit there and feel like I had it all figured out anymore. I had to sit down and be able to listen to what God truly wanted my purpose to be. And I knew that he hadn't gave me the blessings that he had gave me for no reason. I knew that my story was not over, because if my story was over, then it wouldn't have started the way that it did. I had lived a life that before 25 years old, I lived a dream life. A lot of people were hitting me up, commenting, telling me, hey man, you made it, you made it, you made it. And when you hear that, it starts to feed your ego. You start to believe that you're really that guy. But there's only one person that controls everything. And it's not us. We control our effort and our attitude. But the person that controls the outcomes, what life is going to actually look like, is God. And for a long time, although I was saying that I was putting God first, I wasn't doing God's work. I was chasing the money. So because I was chasing the money, that's why the money had ran out, because I wasn't chasing purpose. I was putting all of my money into these businesses, trying to be pretty much an angel investor for my own businesses. Like, I'm just trying to put my money into it and not do the work. The reason why those 6 to 7 different businesses didn't work out wasn't because I didn't know what to do, because granted, guys, I'm not just going to invest $15,000 into something if I don't understand the system behind it. But at the same time, I didn't understand how I should be going about the things. I didn't understand simplicity. I didn't understand the importance of focusing on one particular thing until you actually have the results that you're looking for. So what did I do? When I'm investing in all of these different things and I've reached a threshold, I say, hey, this has to be something wrong. Let's go and just start doing something else. The e-commerce business, the 4 times that I started it, oh, this product or this business isn't going to work. Let me just go and invest another $3,000-$4,000 to be able to get it done. And I had got to the point of entitlement, which was really the worst part, because I felt like because I had the money, then I didn't need to do the work myself. So all I was trying to do was, let me go and hire other people to do the work for me. But the lesson that came behind me going and hiring people to do work for me that I hadn't done myself was the simple fact that I had not done it myself. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what standard to hold them to. The only thing that I expected them was, I gave you my money, so I expect my money back. And that was one of the most humbling experiences, because it's like, now looking back at it, who do you think you are to be able to just feel like your money can just get you to better places? The only way that I had got there in the first place was because of the work that I had got. But a part of me became lazy once I had reached the threshold of having the $300,000, $400,000 stacked up. And that's what that entitlement was, the key point to my downfall. So after all of that, the shift that really happened for me was when I finally had to be isolated. I had to be quiet. I had to stop feeling like I knew everything, and I had to start asking better questions. And the moment that everything changed for me was when I asked the question of, instead of me asking, how do I work harder? I started to ask the question of, what is it that I'm actually trying to build? And when I started to ask that question of what I'm trying to build, it forced me to stop thinking short term and started to think long term. And in these moments of isolation, I was in isolation for probably 2 to 3 years of not talking to anybody, not being a business owner, knowing that you have a lot of potential and you know how to be able to make money, and you have seen yourself make $50,000, $60,000, and you've been at the top of organizations to where if you don't move, then the business doesn't move. It's hard for you to just go back and just be an ordinary person where you just work a job. Like, that is something that eats up at you. But I tried that. In those 2 to 3 years, I had to humble myself. I had to start back at zero. I went and I tried 4 to 5 different things, probably way more than that. Like, I tried to be an insurance sales agent. I tried to sell high ticket stuff. I tried to sell things for other businesses that already had stuff established, and nothing seemed to work for me until I started to, again, I kept asking that question. What are you trying to build, Tyler? What is it that you're trying to work towards? And eventually I had got to the point of understanding that the only way for you to be able to create consistent income at scale, it comes down to 3 things. And these 3 things is something that I call the AOS Framework, which is something that I'm going to be sharing with you guys for the remainder of time now. I have kept it in the tuck because I was trying to, build and figure out who it is that my audience was and who I'm actually being able to talk to. But now that I understand, I know what the people need in order for them to be able to get out of the situation of feeling stuck and being able to get to the threshold of being able to create consistent income for themselves. The AOS framework, the A stands for attention, the O stands for offers, the S stands for systems. And everybody who earns money, whether you are at $10,000 a month or whether you're at $100,000 a month, they are all moving these 3 levers. And every person who is stuck underneath the $10,000 threshold or underneath the $25,000 threshold, they're usually weak in one of these areas. 9 times out of 10 is more than just one of these things. So for the first time, I finally figured out what I needed to do in order for me to stop falling off and how I needed to be able to fix it. But this was just the beginning. Like, just because I understood what I actually needed to do, that was the beginning of the cycle. Because understanding that, okay, well, attention is right now, and I'm going to break this down in my next video because this one's pretty long. I'm not going to have as much time to go through and break it down. If I break down this in one video, it's going to be an hour-long video. However, the AOS framework, attention is right now, if you are a business owner, I don't even want to say business owner because everybody's not at that particular threshold yet. If you're a person that has some type of vision, you have some type of dream, you have some type of purpose, you have a potential that is living on the inside of you that you don't know exactly how to create or how to be able to make a specific income based off of the uniqueness that you have been given. Because I feel like anybody watching this video, everybody in the world has a uniqueness about themselves that they can be able to use to be able to monetize and create a life for themselves. And in the year of 2026, while the world is at pretty much like the economy is falling out, prices are the highest that we have ever seen. Over the next 5 years, the people that are going to be the ones that have stability and are able to do what they want and live life on their own terms is going to be people that understood how to be able to create something and be able to get paid in return for the value that they have created. So the AOS framework, you have attention. Right now, the simple fact is not that you don't have the ability to go out here and start a business and make money off of your uniqueness. It's the fact that nobody knows that you exist. And if they do know that you exist, if you don't have an offer to be able to give them some type of value, then people can't buy something that you're not selling. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to sell this. I don't want to sell that. Everything in the world is buying and selling. If you want to be able to make some type of money, you have to exchange something in return for it. And then the third thing is systems. So systems is being able to repeat a process even on the times where you're not able to fully show up for yourself. Because if you were dependent on yourself to show up 24/7, you're eventually going to burn out. So the AOS framework, attention, offers, and systems, make sure that you write that down and remember that, because we're going to be coming back to that in the next coming videos. So why does this actually matter for you? I wasn't telling you guys my story to impress you. In fact, I probably was silent on my story for such a long time because I didn't feel like my story was something that needed to be heard. But now I'm at the point now where I'm telling you this stuff, guys, because I wasted years trying to figure out what I'm about to be sharing with you guys for free on this channel. Because I know, and I've gone through and realized that in my couple of months just posting consistently, that most people are chasing motivation. Most people are chasing discipline. Most people are chasing mindset. Most people are chasing being able to change their habits. And all those things matter. They're extremely important, but they're just the fuel. They're not the engine. The fuel is what you put into the engine, but the engine is what's going to make sure that you can get to the destination that you want to get to. And if you don't understand these three levers, the AOS framework, attention, offers, and systems, then you're just going to continue to be pouring fuel into an engine that does not exist. But the game changes when you actually understand what it is that you're working towards. So in closing of this particular video, you don't have to lose everything that I lost in order for you to learn the things that I have learned. And the whole point of me being here is to make sure that I can shorten the learning curve for you so that you can be able to create something for yourself that can be able to be consistent. So in the next video, guys, I'm going to get a lot more specific. I'm going to be breaking down exactly why your effort keeps failing you, even when your intentions are right. And if this is something that you need for me to speak about or something that you need to hear, make sure that you subscribe and make sure that you turn on your notifications, because I'm going to be posting that this week. And until the next video, it's a lot of peace and love. What we're about to build is something that is going to be extravagant. It's going to be something that I can't necessarily hasn't been done before, but it's not going to be done in this particular way. So if you are here early in this journey, I appreciate you, and I'm happy that you're here with me on this journey, because there's a lot of limits that we're going to go and cross, because there's no limit on our success. The only limits that we have on our success is the ones that we place on our mind.